Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Prashant.
How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Not very well today, but I'm okay. I can manage. Sorry.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Nikhil. I think we should have a few classes on Saturdays because I hope you've seen the uh, almanac that was. I posted an almanac on your BA thread. Did you see that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we have to finish by 4th December. I'm sorry, 4th January, and we are still in Unit 1. So obviously these 35 to 40-minute classes and 3 of them per week are not sufficient. So please consider the idea. Are you free on Saturdays? Uh,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So tell me a time that is convenient to you except 12 o'clock. Because 12 o'clock I take a class with the MAs. So except 12 o'clock, tell me any other time that is convenient to you. And we'll have a few classes more because I want to try and finish the syllabus. Okay. Uh, so Prashant, you coordinate with whoever is interested, those people who attend the class. And please tell me what time, if at all, we can have, or if you're not interested, then we'll see some other way of doing it. Okay?
Yes, sir. I'll ask.
Yeah, thank you. So let's get going. Let's not waste time. And we were doing Hans Gadamer, and I was talking to you about his concept or theory of fusion of horizons. Okay, which is what he says is the function of hermeneutics. Fusion of horizons, because just as the person or the text that has been written in a particular context cannot be uprooted from there, or you don't want to uproot it from there, you also cannot uproot the interpreter or the exegete, as I told you, the technical word, the exegete or the interpreter from his own context. Okay, so it all comes down to people seeking knowledge uh, in the way in which Gadamer treats it. It is more ontological than epistemological. Okay, so let me kind of explain these two terms to you quickly. Anything which is epistemology or epistemological is that which pertains to knowledge. Okay, the Greek word episteme, E-P-I-S-T-E-M-E, episteme is the basis for epistemology, and it basically means the pursuit of knowledge. So somebody like Plato, who's an epistemologist, if you ask him, why should we have knowledge? He would say, what kind of a question is that? We should have knowledge. We are human beings. We should be having knowledge. Otherwise, what is the purpose of our existence? But on the other hand, you have this other thing, which is called ontology, ontology. Okay, ontology will say that you don't have knowledge for the sake of having knowledge. Okay, you have knowledge for the sake of making sense of your existence. Okay, this is where Gadamer is actually close to Martin Heidegger. Okay, I had mentioned to you in the past that Martin Heidegger talks of our being born as thrownness of being, and this being is written with a capital B. Okay, when you write being with a capital B, it means your state of existence. Okay, he says we are thrown into this world and we don't know why we are here. We don't know what it is that we are supposed to achieve and why should we achieve that. These are all questions pertaining to our existence. Okay, and Martin Heidegger wrote this particular book, which I mentioned to you in the past, but I'll mention it again. Sein und Zeit. S-E-I-N. Sein, U-N-D, and Z-E-I-T. Zeit. Okay, Sein und Zeit. Sein means being, written with a capital being, and time. Okay, so obviously our being is not timeless. That is what you have to understand. That is why he has also added the time part to our being, to the question of our being. Okay, so what he says therefore is that being should be understood in the context of time. And since our birth is like being thrown into the world, we have to make sense of this world. We have to understand our purpose, the necessity of our existence in this particular world. Okay, somebody who comes after, a little after Heidegger, or you can say they're contemporaries actually, in a way. Jean-Paul Sartre says he wrote a book called Being and Nothingness. Okay, so he talks about there is no purpose to our being. Okay, there is nothing in this world. There is no meaning in this world. Right? And so he calls it being and nothingness. He calls the world nothingness, and this is a form of existentialism, which is called French existentialism. But this is also there in Germany. You have a writer like Franz Kafka, who Franz, F-R-A-N-Z, K-A-F-K-A, Kafka. Kafka wrote books which highlight the what should I say? Which highlight the stupidity of our existence. Okay, because if you read his small story called Metamorphosis, there is a man who goes to sleep and he wakes up as a beetle, a dung beetle, right? So that is what that story is. And then he wrote another very famous novel, probably his best work as well, that which is called The Castle. Okay, so there is this man who is told that the purpose of your existence you will know if you go to the castle. So the castle is on the top of a hill, and this man every day is trying to go to the castle. So he keeps making phone calls. Okay, he keeps making phone calls and he does not get to go to the castle at all. People tell him today it's not possible, today it's not possible. Various reasons are given, but he cannot go to the castle. It is an elusive thing. So this is Kafka's way of showing the futility of our existence. You know what futility is? Futility is the opposite of utility. Okay, utility is some use value. Okay, futility is no use value, nothing. It is just a useless exercise. Okay, so by saying that there is a castle, but you can't reach that castle, Kafka was trying to highlight the condition of the human being and the whole idea of existentialism, which says that there is no purpose to our life, and even if there is a purpose to our life, we are not ever going to come to know of it. Okay, this is the negative side of thinking. You will see that it is not the case with Martin Heidegger. Heidegger does believe that an ontological pursuit of things will help us understand the necessity of our existence. And Heidegger was a very big fan of the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Okay, Friedrich Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, Friedrich Nietzsche was opposed to this idea of pan-Germanism. Okay, pan-Germanism is that idea that all Germans should be living in peace and harmony, and he calls this pan-Germanism Apollonian existence, because the Greek god Apollo, Apollo, Apollo is somebody who believes in order. Okay, he believes in maintenance of order. Now Nietzsche says this order is a false order. Why is it a false order? It's a false order because we don't know the purpose of our existence. But yet we seem to be thinking that we know, and that is why we have to follow this order. In opposition to this, he talks about Dionysius, Dionysius. Dionysius is the son of Zeus, the head god of the Greeks. Zeus is written Z-E-U-S. Zeus's eldest son is Apollo, and Dionysius is his younger son. And Dionysius is the exact opposite of Apollo. Dionysius in Roman pantheon of gods is called Bacchus, 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 or god of wine, which is a very bad translation, if you ask me. Dionysius is seen as somebody who's indisciplined. He and his followers are shown as getting drunk and, roaming forests. And this, according to Nietzsche, is the reason why one should follow Dionysius, because Dionysius is searching for meaning. Okay, he's searching for meaning of life. Whereas Apollo, without telling you the meaning of life, is making rules. So he says Apollo is unacceptable, Dionysius is acceptable. And he says the French Revolution is the best thing that happened in world history. Okay, he says it was the French Revolution where the common people got together, questioned the authority of the king, and when the king refused to answer their questions, they just brought him and his wife from their palace in Versailles to Paris, and they executed them. They killed the king and queen of France. Okay, this is what happened during the French Revolution. And the French Revolution was followed by what is called the Jacobin terror, or in English, Jacobin terror, J-A-C-O-B, Jacob, Jacobins, Jacobins. They are called Jacobins in French, Jacobins, and they had a leader called Robespierre, Robespierre. Robespierre unleashed what is called the Reign of Terror. Okay, and it was during this time that all kinds of questions were being asked. All kinds of questions about why there should be a certain kind of order. Why should there be a division between nobles and common people? So this, for Nietzsche, is something that is very, very Dionysian. And he says that this is what we have to follow. And this is what influenced Martin Heidegger. Okay, Martin Heidegger believes that we have to find the meaning of our existence. So if we are thrown into this world, it is like being thrown into a forest, a thick forest, where you don't get to see anything above you because there's a canopy. And so he says that you have to find a clearing. A clearing is where there's no canopy of leaves, trunks, and all those things. You find a clearing and then you start investigating what the world is. Okay, so that is the beginning of the investigation of the meaning of our existence. Okay, and that is called ontology. Now, Gadamer's hermeneutics, apart from being philosophical, they are also quite close to being ontological. They're quite close to being ontological because he says, we don't want to have knowledge. Why are we reading Hobbes? Okay, what is the big deal? Why do we have to read Hobbes? We don't have to read Hobbes. We don't have to read Locke, but we read them. Why are we doing that? We are doing that because of the fact that we want to know more and more about ourselves. Okay, so if we have to know about ourselves, then we have to delve into history. But how we look into history is something that is guided by the purpose that we have in front of us. Okay, the purpose that we have in front of us is, why are we in this state of existence? There are two angles to things. There is one which I have talked about, which is being, right? Which is the state of existence that you are in, but you are not satisfied being in that state of existence. You would like to become something else. Okay, you would like to become something else because you are not really, not particularly happy being who you are, because you don't know who you are and why you are here. So there is this other side to this, which is from being something, we try to become something else. So there is a becoming, being and becoming. Okay, becoming is I want to become something. All right. So that is something which Gadamer emphasizes. It is depending upon the goals that people have in a particular time in history. And that is why he says you have to be sensitive to history. You have to be sensitive to history because people have different perceptions about themselves in different times of history. But he says there's no point in this trying to dislocate yourself. You cannot dislocate yourself from the time in which you live, the place in which you live. The place is not your house or anything, but it is your cultural context, the geographical space, and this other one being the time in which you live. So people can live in the same time in different geographical spaces and have different ideas about being. People living in different times in the same space may have different ideas about uh, different ideas about themselves. Like for example, if you take people up to my generation, we all venerated Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. We still do. People of my generation still do venerate Mahatma Gandhi. But now nobody venerates Mahatma Gandhi. Okay? Mahatma Gandhi has been forsaken by everyone. He has been forsaken by the Dalits. He has been forsaken by the upper caste Hindus and those who believe in the ideology of Hindutva. They actually believe that Gandhi is the root cause of all our troubles that we are facing today. So let me just quickly give you one example. You know, I decided to convert my first floor of my house into a library. After my father passed away last year, I thought I'll bring my mother up and convert the first floor into a library. I was also thinking of starting off some uh, classes for people who needed it, but thanks to COVID, that hasn't happened. Might happen in the future, but I do have a library, a properly set library. Now, when I was setting this library up, I asked for the help of my maidservant's son-in-law, who is also a realtor of sorts. And he is a complete BJP man. He is a Modi Bhakt. And he was helping me put books in, I was categorizing books and putting them. And suddenly he found that I had a stack of books on Gandhi. Okay. And so when I was arranging those books on Gandhi, he was passing them on to me. I can't bend since I have a very bad back problem. He was passing me the books and he counted the books. He said, there are so many books on Gandhi, why don't you have a single book on Godse? I said, Godse, why would I have a book on Godse? He says, no, Gandhi was the, the origin of all our problems, right? And if Godse hadn't killed him, then we would have become an Islamic country. That's what he says. So you see, somebody who is much younger than me apparently thinks Godse is the Mahatma and Gandhi deserved to be assassinated. This is exactly what Gadamer is talking about. People in different times, in different places, will interpret history in a different manner. And that interpretation is the fusion of horizons. Okay? Because you're pulling something out from history, making it walk halfway towards you, and you're taking your system of beliefs, and you are essentially saying that this is what I think about Gandhi, or this is what I think about Nehru. Okay, now anything, yeah.
This reminds me of something that both Gandhi and Godse took inspiration from the same book of Gita.
Possibly. I'm not saying I am right and he is wrong. What I'm trying to tell you, incidentally, you're talking about Gandhi and Godse taking from Gita. But if you take the Acharyas, who Adi Shankaracharya, then Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, when we get to India, Indian thought, I'll tell you this, the three of them preached, Adi Shankaracharya preached Advaita, Ramanujacharya preached Visishtadvaita, Madhvacharya preached Dvaita. And where did they get their interpretation from? The Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is where they got their interpretation from. Okay, these are acharyas, well-known acharyas, right? They are not just ordinary people. So, yes, precisely, you're proving my point. Both Gandhi and Godse read the Gita, one got ahimsa from it and the others got shoot him from it. All right. So, what I'm trying to tell you is opinions change. People don't remain what they are. See, Einstein was a very big fan of Gandhi. And I have quoted him once. And he said, the world will one day look back and say, how was it possible that such a great man lived in this world, walked this earth? That is what Einstein thought the future generations will say about Gandhi the world over. But in India only, people have forsaken Gandhi completely. At one time, Nehru was considered to be the architect of India's development. Today, Nehru is considered by most people from the younger generations, he's considered to be the person who was a waste of a prime minister, a useless man. And it is because of him that we are facing all these problems with China, with Pakistan. So there is that school of thought, right? So things change. This is what Gadamer is trying to tell you. And therefore, he says the task of the hermeneutic is never complete. It is never ever complete. So this hermeneutic keeps going on and on forever. Okay, in this time we are saying Modi is a great man, Nehru was a terrible man. We don't know what the future generations will infer as meanings about people like Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Narendra Modi. We don't know what meanings they'll infer about in the future. So that is precisely what he's saying. So the hermeneutic, the task is never complete. So therefore it is not methodological. Deltai said the task is complete when you reach the original meaning, the intended meaning. When you reach the objective mind, that is when you have reached the intended meaning. But Gadamer is saying, no, that won't happen. There is no way in which you can reach the intended meaning. Because, first of all, the author himself may or may not be aware of what exactly he is writing about. Okay, that is what when I spoke to you about the death of the author and Roland Barthes, one of the ideas that you find in Barthes is that the author may not always have clarity about what he's writing. Okay, he may not always have clarity. So when you're interpreting, then obviously you will have even less clarity, and it becomes open to more and more interpretations. So this is precisely the ontological exercise. Okay, it's ontological because it's changing with time, it's changing with place. It depends on what people want. Why do people study history? Why do people study history? Why do people study political philosophy? Why do people do all this? Because we want to know how all these things came, and how we understand these things depends upon our time period and what we are influenced by. Okay, yeah.
Can we say that the common points of all the interpretations, what the common points that all interpretations share, that common points are the intended meaning of the text?
No, you can't. You can't.
The common points that are shared by every interpretation that exists.
No. The entire interpretation should be the same, not some common points. That
some
is
common points are shared by all interpretations.
Maybe then you can say that is okay.
That can be the intended meaning of the text.
Possibly, if people are arriving at that kind of a conclusion, if they are arriving at those kind of, they are finding a commonality of meaning. If different people and different times and different places are finding meanings which are common, then maybe that is an intended meaning. Possible. Yes, that's possible. Yeah. Now let's wind up with Gadamer. Now Gadamer, the last point that I'd like to make about Gadamer is that Gadamer says that the whole idea of exegesis or interpretation or hermeneutics is akin to translations. Okay. Now, please remember that when you are translating words from one language into another language, then who is the most important person here? The most important person here is the translator. It is neither the original book that is being translated, nor is it the book which has come out as a translation. The most important person is, the most important factor, if you like, here is the translator, because there are no exact meanings for words in different languages. Okay, I told you, when you look at German, there are at least two meanings of understand. Verstand is one, verstehen is another. But in English, it is just understand. But in German, there is a difference. There's a difference between the two. Verstand is a simple understanding. Verstehen is your ability to put yourself in somebody else's place. That is the difference. But when you translate that into English, it is just understand. So you lose that intricacy, that intricate difference that is there between verstehen and verstand. You lose it. Similarly, take English to Hindi. We use the word power. Now, when you say power, how do you translate that into Hindi? Do you translate it as Shakti? Do you translate it as Adhikar? How do you translate it? Okay, you'll say somebody who's holding office has Adhikar, authority. So you're saying Adhikar is authority. But if I say so and so is an authority on the Greek language, that authority does not have any sanction of a government. It is the people who recognize him as somebody who has complete control over the Greek language, and therefore you say he is an authority on the Greek language. Right? So when people translate, they try to find words which are approximations. And please also try to understand that if the original book is written with an idiom, okay, if it is written with an idiom is popular sayings that convey a meaning. Say if you are in England and you say carrying coal to Newcastle. Carrying coal to Newcastle basically means you're being stupid, because Newcastle is where they had the most of the coal production in England. So you don't take coal to Newcastle, right? So when an idiom or when a metaphor from one language into another has to be translated, then it is the translator who becomes the most important. He chooses the word that he thinks is most appropriate. Now, if you read all the early translations into English about Hegel, okay, you will find this one sentence which says, Hegel said, the state is the march of God on earth. Okay, the state is the march of God on earth. It's a wrong translation, because our understanding of God is that God requires, we require God, but God doesn't require us. Whereas if you look at Hegel, what he's using is a word called Geist, G-E-I-S-T, written with a capital G. That is the spirit that permeates the universe, and it requires the human being for its self-realization. So, March of God on earth is a wrong translation, and people have translated from this into Telugu, Hindi, other languages.